Hi everyone. We're starting the week with a stream. It's always cool. Shiman, I think you're muted. Let me just check your settings. Ah, perfect. I see you there. You know what? Like, I love Mondays just because I know that I have one of my streams and it's always, like super fun to get guests on and to discover like new crypto companies or to solo stream. I always, it's always a surprise. So today I'm here with Shiman from Moto, which is a super exciting new crypto card. And I have to say I downloaded it today, and I think it's really. I'm very excited to discuss it with you, just because I've had like the first-hand experience and I've had the chance of like being one of your early users. And yeah, I think like crypto cards are dangerous just because I'm going to spend all my money and like but a necessity, because like what are we going to do with all our crypto? There needs to be, there needs to be continuity in the cycle, and ultimately it needs to, manifest in like physical things. I think this is something that, at least personally, having a bit of a shopping problem, is something that, yeah, I love crypto, yeah, buying NFTs, DeFi, all this stuff, but like ultimately you just want to buy clothes and travel and do stuff with it. So cool crypto cards with cashback are always welcome. And you guys are launching Moto. So I want to welcome everybody. We have Shiman here, and I'll give the mic to you to just give a little bit intro, because you're not new to this space and this is definitely not your first venture. So yeah, and GM Chim to everybody in the chat. Hi, everyone.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Excited to talk to you today about what we're cooking at Moto. And a little bit about me. I have been in the space for a long time. I've been working in crypto since 2017. In 2024, I sold my company to Squads, which is the largest multi-sig on Solana. Thanks. And yeah, originally I was going to be more focused on things like token governance. But early on, when I was at Squads, I was noticing some of their early experimentation with fintech, and I was really excited about it. And I kind of worked myself out of a job, became director of research of Squads, and there saw the market opportunity for Moto, because I realized that high net worth users were kind of being underserved with the current offering and in the, let's say, crypto card landscape, and also that there was an opportunity to use the infrastructure of blockchain rails to make a better credit card experience, period. So not just a better crypto card, but just a better credit card experience. And with Squad's blessing, I left early, about a year ago, really. Just, I think Moto celebrated its first birthday, I think, just last week. So we're
Oh,
about a year
congrats.
old. Yeah. And yeah, left Squads, which is a tough gig to give up, because those guys are really great and
I
they're
was gonna
obviously cooking really
say,
amazing
that's your
things.
baby, right? Like, it's kind of like, even though you've sold it, you're literally handing off your baby. Like, how is that? I always wonder. Because obviously you spent a lot of time like building Swag gets acquired. And obviously, as you know, this happens quite often, like you're then working for the company and leaving that. Like, how is that? I'm curious.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm very happy that Squads acquired. It was an acqui-hire, so it was a partial acquisition. So that made it a little bit easier. It was really more they were just acquiring me. And I really, what I really discovered through the process is that I am a founder. I'm not so good at being an employee. And I'm also an investor in Squads. I would consider the founders of Squads close friends. So it was really a mutual decision that I'm better, I'm happier as a founder, rather than a part of a machine. I like to help build the machine and set the machine up. And when I saw the opportunity for Moto, for me it was just there's many important things in life, but having kind of a reason to wake up and something you're excited about, is kind of up there, I've learned, and Moto is that reason for me, and that's kind of so it's been a pleasure to be in the opportunity to learn from squads because they're obviously, like I would say, up there in terms of the most serious actual businesses built on top of blockchains. And so I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity with them. And I'm very grateful that there was mutual trust that me leaving to start Moto and my own venture was the right decision.
You touch upon a point, and this is actually something that's been on my mind, and I've actually been thinking about it and discussing this also with my co-founder. Some of the most, let's say, desirable players or type of employees that you can hire for obviously a certain type of job, not entry level position and so on, but as a company, as a startup, ultimately, like hiring a founder would be a dream in a sense. Like the founders are the dream employees for startups. They are, self-starters, they're driven, they're independent, they know how to communicate, they take a lot of responsibility, they're obsessed with what they do, maybe a little ADHD. And so it's a bit of a paradox where this type of person would make up for a really good employee in a startup. I wouldn't necessarily say in a corporate where things are very streamlined and a little bit maybe too boring for someone that likes the stress and the rush. But at least for startups, if I would be starting up and I would already have a co-founder, I would still look for people that maybe had ventures that either they sold or that didn't necessarily work out and so on. Because ultimately, even if you have a venture and you fail, like it's more of a learning curve, especially if you want to stay in the game as founders. And so founders really make the best employee in a sense. But at the same time, as a founder, it's hard to be an employee. Like, what's your take on this? Like for Moto, like, would you guys hire founders or like what's, like from a founder perspective, like what's your take on this? Have you thought about it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that it's a different question in the age of AI. I think that let's say if you have a technical founder, which I have in my co-founder, Ramses, who previously was leading a lot of the fintech coding at Squads as well. We got the tech guy and the product guy in him, and I kind of have to handle everything else across vision, marketing, sales, right? And of course, we leverage AI. So the question is, if you have, let's say, a somewhat complete team, where is that weakness that you don't cover in the like? What is the thing that can't be automated, right? And in those cases, if you're lucky enough to find a founder that kind of fills that gap, I would say absolutely go for it. And but then from there, I think it's a matter of ownership and a true need for the role, right? Because if you have experience building your own ventures, that's fantastic. But wanting to stay committed to a venture when times are tough, right? When you start to run out of runway theoretically, right? Or if people have to take pay cuts, right? It's, who's still going to believe in the payoff of the venture enough when things aren't easy, when you're in a bear market instead of a bull, right? So I think I think founders can make great founding team members. I think that inviting a founder later on in the venture, right, when maybe things are a little bit more established, it can work out as long as there's a lot of agency and a real demand for that role.
Are you guys automating? Like how much of your processes are you guys automating besides, using AI in codes? I was listening to an interview of the Airbnb founder the other day on TBPN, and he was mentioning that most of their code at Airbnb right now is AI. So I was wondering, like, are you guys open about it? Because it seems like there is still a bit of a stigma to say that like we're almost there, right? When to the point where it's okay to say that like things are run with AI. It's not a secret. Everybody does it. But I'm curious to know, at what level are each individual companies like automating? Are there, because obviously, like you mentioned, there are things that cannot be that still need that human factor and intervention. For a crypto card like Moto, like what are the things that you guys are automating or using AI for? Very curious about that.
Yeah, so I think we use AI to assist in a lot of time-intensive processes across research, marketing, copywriting, internal memos and discussions. We do a lot with uh, connecting tools like Linear and Slack and having automations. But I don't, we're not, AI is not writing our code. I think that if you're a fintech that's custodying any amount of money, really, you don't want AI slop. So we don't touch it with code. And even with our customer service, we have a full concierge and customer service team that are all humans.
Oh,
And so
wow.
we may use AI to assist them in helping users more quickly. But the human touch is what you get with, like, let's say, a more premium card like Moto that's also very selective because we aren't general access, we can be more dedicated to the issues or needs of our individual clients. And I think that was one of my big lessons from Squads, because Squads is the largest multi-sig on Solana. They secure tens of billions of dollars across all of their programs, but they have to give the exact same user experience to someone that has $5 in a Squads program. Of course, they probably give some VIP to someone who has billions, but in general, right, it's like when you scale so quickly to servicing so many different types of clients, it uh, a second order effect of that is that it becomes a lot harder to address their actual needs. So I think that, yeah, we are AI forward, but we think that at the end of the day, you want a human helping you out, probably with something like a credit card program, rather than an AI that can hallucinate or eventually defers you to a human agent anyways, right? Because that's what all these AI
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
help.
I'm the first to be like, I want to talk to an agent, a live
Yeah,
agent
that's
right
that's
now.
what everyone wants, right? And it
Yes.
gets really annoying when you have to, like, beg an
Yeah.
AI to talk to a human, So we're definitely, like I said, AI forward, but human touch centric.
Okay, nice. And you mentioned that obviously, you're going to be giving perks to your users. Right now, Moto is not accessible. You're still a little bit, I wouldn't say in stealth, but like you guys are live, but it's not accessible for everyone. This is like an invite only card. Who are the people that you're selecting for to join, like as early users?
That's a great question. I would say that with Moto, we're not just trying to build a neobank. We are trying to build a meaningful network. And so if we invite someone into Moto right now, it's, one way or another, there's something special about them. It may be financial, and it often is, right? It may be that they are our dream client. They travel all over the world. They demand excellent service and luxury and no limits and things like zero FX, which I think we're one of the first crypto native cards to offer zero FX.
Yeah, I
But it can
was
also
I
be
was
about
gonna say that because I used it today for like honestly, like I had to print out some documents, so I quickly went and I looked at the FX and I was like, there's like basically zero fees here. Yeah, I was expecting like a 2% fee, but yeah, really on that one, honestly, was really surprised. Even if it was like I think like a $1 transaction to print out some papers. That's really cool. How you guys like that's really nice. Oh, Rules Crypto is saying, what is zero FX?
Yeah, so sorry for those that are not familiar. FX means foreign exchange fees, and it actually gets a little more complicated than that because we're a Visa card, and whenever you make a transaction that's not in the native currency, which for us would be dollars, you have to pay the Visa exchange rate. And that can vary between, 1 to 2% plus, depending on where you are and what Visa determines the fair rate is at that time. So kind of there's like an extra Visa fee. And so, yeah, a lot of these other cards that are out there, they may offer you 2 to 3% cash back. But if you're not aware of what you're paying for FX fees, as they're called, foreign exchange fees, you may not be getting as good of a deal as you think you are.
Yeah, it's a bit of a trick, right? Like I won't name a few, but there's somewhere like you do the math and you're like, I'm not actually really getting more back. It sounds very nice when you pay and you get the notification, but like it's not real cash back. You're actually spending
Yeah,
more in
I,
fees.
I, I won't name any names, but there are certain cards where you're actually, you're paying for your cash back, right?
Yeah,
It's
there's
actually a
some.
net negative, but a lot of people don't realize.
It's tough, and that's something that's really nice to see. Yeah, and then on top of that, I know that you guys have like 5% cash back. I was just thinking of like all the things that I wanted to buy because I have a list. I'm traveling at the end of the month, and I do have like a lot of expenses. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun summer, and it always, even if it's like 5%, it feels really nice to always get like something, a little discount everywhere. But you guys also have like a really cool design that I want to go over. Really nice website, by the way. So this is
Thank
the
you.
website. Join the waiting list. So yeah, you guys have a waiting list. So I guess like if anybody wants to join, they would have to put their name here and then pray. Let's say like somebody wants to get in, and you have no idea who they are. Um, Real Scripto saying all the credit cards keep calling me saying they want their cash back. Bro, what do you mean? Yeah, I mean you have two options. Either you run or you pay them back. I don't know what to say, bro. Also, one thing, like Moto, you guys are a credit card and not a debit card, right?
That's correct.
That's really cool. I think
Yeah.
you're the first, no? You are the first.
We're the first on-chain credit card. Of course, there are cards like Gemini or Coinbase or Nexo, and those are bona fide credit cards. It's also worth mentioning that we're a secured credit card, so you do need to deposit into Moto currently. So it's like if you want to spend 100,000, you need to deposit 100,000. The difference is that we don't debit you until the end of the month, and we earn interest on your deposits during that time, and that allows us to be much more generous with our perks and our cashback.
Okay, nice. Rule Scripto said Trump inspired you. How did he inspire you? That's so random. Rule Scripto, remind me, you're in the US, yeah, right? You're in Florida. I forgot. Yeah, I think you're in Florida. You guys were in did you guys go to Consensus this year?
We did. We did. We had our head of marketing there.
Oh,
Yes.
nice. What did you think of the conference?
Well, you'd have to ask her because I've been, a little busy shipping, but I caught up with her earlier today, and she said from her perspective, there is this kind of buzz going around with Moto, and um, people do want to get in. So that's really exciting to see, because, yeah, that's the goal, right? The goal is to build something that people actually want. And I think that by having limited access and reviewing each application individually and seeing who really do we want to bring in right now, to help us not only get feedback on what we have today, but to actually shape what our future offering looks like.
Um, how many users do you guys have? Like, because I know that it's you're making it like really hard to get in. Um, Like when did you start onboarding users?
I won't disclose
More okay. If
any
you can,
exact
obviously.
figures,
I'm very
you
nosy. I
know,
ask a lot of questions. I know.
no, that's okay. But what I can say is that we're about 2 months into our test beta. We are doing serious volumes, serious numbers, um, with, you know, 20 to 100x less users than some very large crypto neobanks or cards. So I won't disclose exact figures, but people are seriously spending, people are seriously enjoying the card, and we plan to be a little more general access soon.
Okay, nice. I mean, I have to say, like, I downloaded it today. I set it up, and I made my first like 2 transactions. Honestly, it was very smooth. I just like the design. You know what? Like, it's not 2017 anymore. Like, things need to look good. Things need to be, consumer friendly, and just also in terms of like customer journey, but also in terms of UI, UX, and design. Like, it needs to be beautiful. Like, no more
Mhm.
ugly, apps that like don't work. But then, okay, you can get like some returns, but still, like, I think we're at the point where crypto needs to evolve past that, and things need to work with one click, and they need to look beautiful. It needs to be something that I can show my friends, and I can onboard my
Mhm.
friends, and they're going to use it without even caring that there's any crypto involved or blockchain, and don't need to know what it is. Like, we need to really like prioritize projects that really focus on mass adoption, and that happens when you're not aware you're using the underlying tech. And I think like design needs to be incorporated in this discussion because it is very important. Where does Max is asking, where did the name come from for Moto?
Yeah, no, not too many people ask that, which is funny. It actually comes from Satoshi Nakamoto. So it's not the most original name, but we are a card powered by, um, what I call financial internet infrastructure, which is, what I kind of think of as blockchains at this point. It's at this point, the blockchain that you're on shouldn't matter so much. It should all be abstracted the same way that the internet has been abstracted, the way that the banking, yeah, most people don't know how banks work, right? And yeah, that's kind of how I view it.
That's cool, actually. I've never heard that one, but it's a nice spin. It's quite elegant because you wouldn't want to call your card like Nakamoto or Satoshi. There's just how many have we seen? But Moto is like a very elegant reference to that, which I really like a lot. Max is asking, and what about the logo? Makes me think of the of American Express. Yeah, indeed, with like it's a angel
Yeah,
with a crown, very Roman, mythological.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Amex is like that's who we want to be compared to, right? We don't necessarily want to be compared to other, you know, crypto cards, or anything like that. Um, and we very purposefully spend a lot of time looking at iconography from premium brands. So, things like Lamborghini, Places, which is, Raya's new app, and definitely Amex. And so we do want to evoke those feelings that this is a premium card. I think that with a lot of other crypto cards, you see let's say the name of the blockchain, or just the text logo of whatever provider it is. And yeah, for us, it was really important that we are not just building a crypto card, we are building a luxury brand, right? And the symbol, the angel symbol for us, is meant to evoke these feelings of exclusivity, that this is something different, that, we're not just another crypto card.
I love that. There's definitely a market for this. Like, we have a lot of crypto to spend. And also, I was looking here, rewards. Wait, no, where is it? Oh yeah, concierge. You have like concierge services, lounges. I mean, Amazing. It's basically a mix of having a Revolut slash more like concierge service that you're gonna have. Like you mentioned that there was gonna be obviously access to events. I was just wondering because like also one thing I noticed like this year, Coachella happened, it was all over social media. At least my TikTok was. There was no way to escape Coachella. There's no mute button for these events. But on the other side, these are events that are really catered and thought to allow brands to actually come and bring awareness and like, you know, touch upon their own audience, but also go beyond that and are great commercial events. I was wondering, like, are we going to be seeing Moto at these events? Like, is this also something that you guys are looking forward? Like, what's on your program for this year?
For sure, there's a lot of really cool things cooking. You know, we don't want to just throw crypto events. We want to actually throw cultural events, right? Things that are really interesting that people in a wider audience might be interested in. And yeah, Moto, being a Moto member will certainly give you a lot of perks, you know, at these events. But one of the ways that we will go more mainstream is by becoming an authority on cultural relevance, right? By actually curating events. So, I mean, you know, for me, the crypto side event thing is just so played out at this point. And we have to move beyond crypto, right? We have to move beyond the Luma list of side events. We need to start actually creating environments that lots of people want access to. And the way that they gain access or better access to it is through a product like Moto.
I agree. I totally agree. And I run a women's community. We have 700 members, and every event we've done has been curated. We are allergic to panels. There's no networking, also because like women network in a different way if there's no men, just for that. But like my mission has really been to bring not just like chill, casual, like, you know, curated networking opportunities, but actually just like places where people want to go. But we've also, for example, one thing that we did in the beginning that really worked, and it really, you know, made me think of like where are we at in this market, or at least like who are the people that are still in crypto in this industry today? People that do have a life outside of it. It's no longer just internet PFPs, but people that do have a life and do want to have experiences together and want to do things together, like just normal people in that sense, which I think in the beginning we were very excluded, or at least like trying to segregate that there wasn't really a link. And for example, like we organized like a night at the opera in Abu Dhabi before Breakpoint. We've done like gallery exhibitions. We're always trying to like do things that, you know, go a bit outside of the box, even just like a Pilates event with Lululemon. So really working with like established brands that have nothing to do with our industry really adds value. And I think this is, and it's been really well received and oversubscribed every time. And I think these are the kind of experiences that people want to go for, especially because if you're still here, you have not been liquidated, so you do have a certain disposable income to spend, hopefully, or you have a job, or you're, you know, in a way you're participating in this economy in some way. But at the same time, like most people have been around. I don't see a lot of new talent coming into crypto straight up. Like if people join this industry professionally, they'll go to AI these days. At least most people, and which means that we've done it. We've done the conferences, we've done the events, like, but we've also made friends. We've also made a lot of connections that have become like really close friends, or people that you would actually enjoy spending time outside of a conference with. So I think there's definitely a lot of space for curated, cultural, but also like quality moments that don't feel like, you know, you're gonna be shilled something there, where it's just like a fun experience with like, you know, just with taste. I think taste is like the word of this year, besides the whole obviously AI slop conversation, but even more so, we're in that phase of the industry where people want taste and, again, design, good apps, things that work, easy, and having a good time and ways to spend your crypto. I think that's my thesis, at least.
Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of relevant points to how we think about Moto. And first and foremost, obviously, your audience is probably a more crypto audience. You got the giant penguin in the background, right? So, we're definitely keeping it a little more, if you're a crypto user, why should you join Moto? But you've used the app yourself, right? So you can see that you don't really see crypto anywhere unless you're trying to make a stablecoin transfer or withdrawal, right? And so it's kind of what I was saying earlier about looking at the blockchain as more of infrastructure. And I think you're so right about the community and like, I don't know, jadedness of being a member of this community right now. And I totally agree with you. I think that the reason that NFTs were so popular was because it was a way for random people on the internet to establish some kind of sense of common ground, which was also motivated by price, which is, that's a very unique thing, right? You're all kind of like, with a very successful NFT collection, you're all kind of getting rich together, and maybe there's some IRL events, and you saw that, right? Like, NFTs used to be about the art, and then they became about the experience, or what does it unlock for you, right? And then that was like the
The
utility
members club, yeah.
of the, yeah, right. And Moto is that today, right? We're not an NFT, but you can think of the
Oh,
card
thank
as
God.
like a
I'm
physical
so glad.
artifact.
If there's one period in time I don't want to see again, is NFTs.
Yeah.
I was not a
And
very good trader.
I'm gonna do something on your live stream that we haven't done yet, but we actually have the
Ooh,
prototype of the physical card. This isn't what the final production will look like, but
shiny.
it's a beautiful, beautiful. That's all I'll show. But it's a beautiful mirror card. So you can think of that as the object of desire of the NFT, as as a new NFT. But the difference is that you don't need crypto to have our card, right? You need to have taste. That word, I think that's an operative word at Moto, right? We want people who have taste to use our card, because the people who have taste tend to spend. Having taste is expensive, but it's also what you're spending your money on and how it enhances your life. And not it's Moto is the best card for groceries, but it's certainly the best card for living your life and having a really meaningful experience. Because like you said, what's the point of making money or having crypto or any source of wealth if you're not enjoying it? So people that kind of like hoard their wealth, or don't really want to splurge or live their lives, that's not really who the Moto card is for. And so yeah, I would just say, like, we have evolved past the stage of friendship, right? I've made so many friends through crypto, right? As you probably have as well. Those that are still here, we're all looking for what's next. And what's next is bringing in the rest of the world, and making it not about crypto, not about coins, not about gatekeeping. Because I think crypto for so long, one way or another, has been gate kept, whether that's through informational asymmetry, right? Like, if you're trading on Binance for the first time, you don't know what a market maker is. You've never heard of Wintermute, right? Or if you're buying an NFT, you're like, what do you mean there's a back in those days, $100 gas fee on
Yeah,
ETH?
my
The
God.
NFT is $2. You know what I mean? We've moved past that. We've made our friends, and now is the time to build products on top of these rails. And that's how we're going to actually, if this is a movement of making better money one way or another, that's how we're going to have to win. We can't just stay competing over the same, whatever, 10,000 people on the planet that are still on crypto Twitter,
Yeah, but also, I mean, we need companies to do things to make things beautiful again, because from a
Absolutely.
scale from 0 to 10, how embarrassed are you to say that you're in crypto? when you tell normie friends.
Now I say people, I run a credit card company.
There you go.
There's your answer. I mean, that's the other thing is like, crypto has a bad rep, and unfortunately, it doesn't actually have a great history, especially for consumers, right? And so it's like, um, I think that's another thing is that if you're still building something today that touches crypto, your users have to be safe. We can't, I make this joke a lot, right? But you can't explain to someone's grandmother that North Korea just hit a lick on them. It's like, what do you mean? Like, how do you explain? Like the things that have become so normalized in our industry, right? Oh, someone hacked my wallet through a Zoom meeting, or
Yeah, there's so much
oh,
like wallet poisoning happening these days for some reason.
yeah.
Like we're seeing all kinds of hacks.
Well, it's also because of AI, right? It's like,
Yeah, it's like Roblox kids
bad
that are
well,
hacking
I mean,
us.
bad actors aren't using AI with safety limits,
Yeah,
right? They're not using Claude, right, to do these hacks, right? They probably have their own models, and unfortunately, we're such a nascent industry where there are all these vulnerabilities that maybe human eyes, right, through an audit can detect, but obviously, AI can't. So it's a very scary time to be building in crypto with all of these risks. And so, the reward better be there. There better be a real reason why you're taking on these risks and making your users take on these risks, right? There has to be something that's actually worth it, right? And
what
two,
LLMs? Sorry, I'll make you finish and then I'll ask my question.
no worries. And two is that you need to start building, like I said, products on top of this infrastructure that are safe, pleasant to use. I mean, we live in the age of privy wallets, and there's just no excuse, like you said. There's in 2026, there's no excuse for bad UI or UX. There's no excuse for a bad bridging
Agree,
experience.
agree. I'm
If your app is
allergic.
still there, like good
Cannot.
luck. Like sincerely, sincerely good luck.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the things. I mean, we still see a lot of projects that are so clunky and there's so much friction. Like it's so
Yeah.
much friction. It just goes against everything that just normal companies are trying to eliminate, or at least fight against. I was like you mentioned, like which LLMs do hackers use? Because obviously Claude is very
I'm
PG.
not a hacker. I don't know. I think my point that I'm just trying to make in general is that like the idea of putting safeguards or safeguards or slowing production of AI tooling is a uniquely Western concept, right? The idea that Claude doesn't release a model because it detects that it can detect all these different vulnerabilities, right? And that they actually onboard enterprises and give them first access to like try to like see how vulnerable they are before this becomes more widely distributed. Like Lazarus Group, is not waiting for some safeguards,
Yeah,
right? And if we've learned anything through the history of crypto hacks, is that bad actors in crypto typically are a lot smarter than the CTO of whatever startup. And it's not just and the really scary thing now is it's not just about tech. Now the social engineering it's unprecedented, right? The largest hacks of this year came from social engineering,
yeah.
from
They're not waiting for you
humans
to
being
click on the
compromised.
link.
No,
Yeah,
no, they're making sure you click on the link by actually getting into your life, and so it's not just AI, it's just in general. I would say that the biggest difference between crypto and let's say traditional finance is that traditional finance has the monopoly of violence, right? Like if North Korea tries to hack the US government for dollars, actual dollars, right? Like there's no waiting for Circle or Tether to, freeze USDC or USDT on chain, right? It's like if they somehow manage to get dollars from the US to any other correspondent bank, right? That's just going to be shut down instantly. The US government has the ability to like just quote unquote blacklist entire governments from using the reserve currency of the world, right? Crypto just doesn't have that, right? And I think that really the really smart play for a lot of crypto projects is how can you actually get the benefits of the protection of the real world, whether that's through contracts or doing things the right way. I think that one of the big reasons that so many crypto companies were offshore was because it was a very hostile U.S. administration. And you can say a lot of things about Trump, but you can't say that he's hostile to crypto. And now is like kind of the time to foresee a regulated path, especially zooming out for the next 5, 10 years, right? And it's like, how can you build products that do get things like FDIC insurance? And there are some of our competitors that have already done that. We haven't done that yet or anything like that, but today there are DeFi native apps where if you want, you can get like a real FDIC, insured bank account. And for those that don't know, that means that to a certain amount of money, if anything happens to the bank, you're guaranteed from the U.S. government, right? So actually bringing in these guarantees from countries or jurisdictions that have strong rule of law as opposed to weak, I think that's going to be a trend that crypto companies like us that are onshore and that are doing everything in a regulated way. Maybe it makes it harder to ship things quickly, but the payoff 2 years from now I think will be significant.
You mentioned trends. Like, what are your top like three predictions? Yeah, what are your top three predictions for the rest of the year for crypto?
Yeah, I think on the bad news side, I don't think these hacks are done. I also don't think that the industry is responding strongly enough, really, to what's happening. I mean, in the wake of certain hacks, maybe there's new education funds or like foundation support for making sure that a project is secure or has cold signers. But there's, like I said, there's the social engineering component of it as well. So, hopefully, I really hope I'm wrong about this one. But, I think that we're probably not done seeing this be a common theme this year, unfortunately. Um, I think that this year will be the year that there's another breakout crypto app. And when I say breakout, I think that, there's very, very few apps that have that in crypto. Like, I maybe OpenSea did for a little bit when NFTs were really huge, but today it's pretty much like, Polymarket and Kalshi. And I think that, this year you'll probably see a new one enter that doesn't get acquired, right? Because that's kind of what's happening is that like any crypto project that's getting big enough to have that expansion into a more general market tends to get snagged up these days. And then, yeah, the last one on that is major acquisitions, right? You see it with major players like Kraken, of course, Coinbase, yeah, everyone really, it's right. What I was saying earlier about this kind of regulated DeFi stack, right? Where you're kind of getting like the best of uh, smart contract or decentralized guarantees, right? So you're benefiting from this financial internet infrastructure, but also the guarantees of strong rule of law. Everyone right now is actually trying to compete to own that entire stack, right? Because that is invariably where we are going, right? So whether that's MasterCard, Visa, Coinbase, Robinhood, probably Revolut at this stage, right? Like that's Rain, even our issuer, probably, right? Like that's, you want to be able to own everything end to end. Stripe, you can't forget Stripe. I mean, that's why Stripe acquired Privy, Bridge, and so many other notable companies, right? So, definitely more acquisitions.
If you weren't building, because obviously at the beginning of a conversation you started saying that obviously you're always meant to be a founder and this is who you are as well and the kind of role that you want it to be. Like, if you weren't building Moto, what would you build as a company type that would you think would be the potential, that could break through this year?
Yeah, I mean, other founders of crypto card companies have kind of made this joke, but it's like, if you want to make money, don't start a crypto card company, because it's actually, it's actually it's very competitive. It's very difficult to make a margin. You really have to have some kind of edge, right? Or some kind of focus. And for us, that actually means limiting our potential TAM, right? Like, we're not trying to get billions of users, and maybe that's a distinction between us and other crypto neobanks. We're trying to get the right 2,000 users, right? If we get the right 2,000 users, we're an extremely, extremely successful company. I think that, the if I were building something today and wanting to make money in crypto very quickly, right? Which, I think Moto is much more of like, if it works, it really works, but it may take time for you to get there. It has to be something based on trading volume, and I think it's very difficult to compete with Hyperliquid, but it's not impossible. Hyperliquid has this huge first mover advantage across comparable ecosystems where they have very, very deep liquidity for non-crypto assets, right? Which is why now you have real hedge funds that are hedging on Poly market on the weekends, with oil. And the exact same thing is true about uh, um, sorry, I think I said Poly, yeah, about Poly market, right? Like, a Poly market, you also have hedge funds now that are, or insurance companies,
Or
right,
companies
that are
as well,
hedged.
just managing their
Excuse me.
effects. Or companies as well. I think this was something that Kalshi was saying, that Kalshi ultimately is also a way for companies to hedge when it comes to like effects, like or
Oh,
inflation.
sure. Like, yeah, currency. I mean, that's the thing, right? It's like, these tools are, the ultimate example of breakout infrastructure, where it's a new DeFi oriented primitive, right? That is creating spillover utility for actual companies to do their operations in a more efficient way, or to preserve their balance sheets. So um, anything in that domain or that vertical, right? Where, thinking about, by building this, who can hedge what, right? If you can build something that kind of lets people hedge uncertainty in size, you're going to make a lot of money.
I mean, we're also seeing companies like, is it virtuals or all these like pre-IPO, yeah, anything honestly, like just
Absolutely. Yeah,
tokenizing
stocks. Yeah,
anything.
yeah, like X stocks, right? That's really smart. I mean, there's a lot of great companies in that space, like Ondo. There's too many to mention, right? But that's also what I mean about owning the whole stack, right? It's like, figure out who hasn't owned a piece of the stack yet, right? Where there can be real volume, specifically from hedging, and that's the recipe for the next big crypto app.
Well, excited for this year. It really seems like, I mean, from at least like last year, there was a lot of talk about, the end of the 4-year cycle and so on, like related to just crypto markets. But I think as an industry, there's a clear shift that happened. And this obviously could be seen in events, the kind of attendance, kind of company that would attend, major crypto events and conferences, but also right now in terms of like projects and companies that are surviving or are thriving, there's definitely less noise. There's been a big cleanup in terms of like what is there,
Mm,
and it's just converging to real utility and just real
mm,
revenue, which is something that previously it was just more of a, we're investing based on hype and like how cool things looked and how many people were like talking about it. But about hype, actually, because I know we're about to come to the close off. Like, I'm gonna try to queue for this this weekend, and I'll see if I can buy it with my Moto card. Would you buy this? What are your thoughts on this? On this collab, because obviously, we were talking about taste, right? Watches, big industry, collectibles, obviously massive industries. Watches have a very long history, and they're quite intricate and like complex. And also, there's a high price point to enter this kind of market if you want to be collecting or just wearing watches. And it can go really deep from just very entry level watches, obviously starting with Swatch, like who hasn't had a Swatch as a kid, to Casio, to then Rolex, and to then more, sophisticated brands that are less accessible to the public just because you need to be in the know. When you invest in something that is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars or euros. What is your take, if you have any, on the AP Swatch? Would a Moto user would be wearing this? I know it's a tough question.
It's a way deeper question than you may realize, and it's also it's a huge part of how Moto works and operates. So a couple of things. First of all, I'm definitely going to try to buy some of these. So you're going to be competing with me on the Moto card because I definitely want that 5% cash back
Right.
on the purchase. And yeah, I'll try to buy as many as I can get.
Apparently, it's only
but-
one, so you got to bring your friends.
Okay, well then, I'll get all the Moto members to who don't want one themselves to try to get one from me. But yeah, a little Moto AP army. The really interesting thing about this collection is that AP's IP, their intellectual property on the shape of the Royal Oak was actually expiring this year. So this is kind of like their cash out, right? Which is like, okay, if everyone is going to just be able to copy us anyways, right? Let's make some money, and this says two things. Like, one, it says that in order for something to be premium and for it to be exclusive, it needs to be prohibitive to normally get it, right? And so for both of these points, I'm going to refer to my probably favorite political philosopher. His name is Thorsten Veblen. Do you, by any chance, or anyone in the audience, I guess, does anyone know what a Veblen good is?
I think Max probably does because he studied philosophy and he's a big philosophy nerd. Let's see if he's still in there. Can you repeat what did you just say? I have no idea what you said, but I'm pretty sure that Max knows.
If anyone knows what a Veblen good is, Veblen. You know, Max? If not, I'll tell you in just a second. Yeah. So So basically, normally in economics with supply and demand, and price sensitivity, the higher the Thorsten Veblen said it, Max. So it's named after him. So normally, the more expensive something becomes, the less demand there is, right? So it's like if oil prices go up, people bike more, right? Or people figure out a different way of getting from A to B, right? You see that time and time again. A Veblen good is something where as the price goes up, the demand goes up, right? And so these are things like APs beforehand, right? These are things like Lamborghinis, right? And if you look at them, right, there's a giant wait list for Lamborghinis, right? Whenever they say, okay, we're producing 10 cars, they're gonna cost $5 million each. They know that they're going to find customers for those cars, right? Because they have successfully created a Veblen good. The second big idea that Thorsten Veblen came up with is called pecuniary emulation. And basically, it's a kind of like an anthropological idea, but it's that people spend money that they don't have to make other people think that they have it, right? So I don't know if you're in Europe and you've ever walked around, seeing someone who kind of looks like a drug dealer or something like that, right? But like a lot of times they're dripped out in Gucci or they're dripped out in Louis Vuitton, right? And it's
I
like
have to say that a particular Louis Vuitton and Gucci, like the sachets,
exactly the loudest, the loudest, like
cheap cap.
look. I got money, right? And
but
kind
no
of,
taste.
and then if you compare that to Yeah, and if you compare that to someone like, Bill Gates or, Sam Altman, right? Or Mark Zuckerberg, it's like they've got money. They don't need to dress in any way. Maybe I'm not saying that they don't ever, pop out with a nice watch or, dress up, but on their day to day, right? Like they don't have to prove anything. So, I think one of the reasons that the AP, this collab with Swatch is going to sell out is because it's the perfect thing for those that want to emulate having a real AP, right? And between you and me, I'm not buying I can't like pick up a bunch of APs myself, right? And so yeah, like that's totally me, right? It's like I want to emulate it. I think a lot of Moto users, right, who have a lot more money than I do, they probably won't touch it, right? And maybe they're selling their actual APs right now, and now they're looking for the next, what is the next exclusive watch going to be, right? So exclusivity is a combination of taste, like it has to actually be beautiful, right? It has to be an object of desire or an experience of desire. Limited entry or supply, it has to be difficult. If everyone could get an Amex Black Card, no one would have an Amex Black Card because it wouldn't be special anymore. Um, yeah,
Max is saying,
yeah,
thing is, it's a huge move for AP. They can get so much more volume and their brand everywhere. It's true. It really
yeah,
reaches like a completely different, like it just enlarges their audience. It's hard to compete with
yeah.
Rolex
But
since so many have one. Yeah.
yeah, but just to your point, Max, that's also why Rolex prices are going down, right? Is because they're so easy to get these days. And I don't know if you heard this part of the stream, but I think one of the big motivations behind AP doing this is that their IP for the actual shape of the watch has expired. But anyways, I totally agree with you. It's a super smart move for AP, and I think it's going to sell out like hotcakes and
I'm
be
gonna be
really great for their
queuing.
brand.
I'm going early. Like I'm going early to Dubai Mall and I'm gonna be queuing and I'm gonna get a pink one. I either pink or baby blue. I can't decide. I mean,
Well,
if
maybe
that
maybe
is
film it because you're gonna use the Moto card, right?
yeah,
So
I
you can
know.
send me a video when you get it,
I'll
when you
get
beat me
my
to it.
yeah, exactly. I'll get a cashback on that as well, which is nice. I do have to argue one point. And this is
Mm,
like obviously I'm European, and I think this whole debate on, you know, value and wealth and the way of like showing wealth and also from like an aesthetical point of view is a very Eurocentric talk, because I live in Dubai and displaying your wealth is cultural, is actually cultural. And this is something I've actually spoken about this like in one of my previous stream, like displaying your wealth is a cultural thing, and there's different ways of doing it. It's actually communicating to other people. You want to send a message by what you wear, the way you talk. There's different ways to obviously signal wealth and success, and in Europe it's a little bit more low key. If you're going all out, too many brands, like too many logos, you're gonna be put in the nouveau riche box, if not just tacky.
sure.
So, there's
Yeah.
that. It's a big risk. Like, and the thing is, like, the people that you may want to impress will be very much like horrified and will are allergic to this type of aesthetic in that sense, and would not want to be associated with someone that's so flashy. Here in Dubai, it's very different. It's actually quite common to just showcase your wealth and showcase your success, and there's less of a, let's say, like a stigma. Obviously there's taste comes into place, but you can see this on the street, like just it's also safer in a sense, like you can
Yeah.
just
That's
no
what I was
one's
gonna
gonna key
say.
your
Like,
rolls,
yeah.
or
Yeah. No,
smash,
totally,
chop your
totally.
hand
And
off and
yeah,
steal your
it's the
AP.
same thing in like, Southeast Asia, right? Where it's a common, yeah, you feel safe, right? And then, because you feel safe, you can actually flex, right? So, yeah, no, I think that's a really good counterpoint. It's worth noting that Thorsten Veblen was a European, right? And so I think that's really, really a great take. It's actually the first time anyone's said that to me or kind of countered me on that point. But I totally agree with you. How wealth is displayed and how it's used varies very much on culture, tradition, right? Like I think that WeChat had a breakout year for Chinese New Year's, because they digitized, the red gift cards that you can give, and you could load them up with money, right? And that's not necessarily that's not a Western idea or a Western concept, and it was so successful. So yeah, Moto is a global card, and it's really important to us that we stay globally fluent so that we can be something that is desired by those that are in the know, so to speak, wherever they are. So yeah, no, it's a super fair point.
Yeah,
I
and
think
Max
that
is adding
yeah,
that
sorry.
US tech billionaires versus Indian billionaires from billionaire families, which, by the way, India has probably one of the highest numbers of billionaires. And a lot of them do live between Dubai and Delhi and Mumbai or wherever they're from. They do display wealth in a very, very different way. And both don't need to show that they necessarily have money. It's just cultural. It's just like a different way. Same thing of like when you look at weddings, like certain
Yeah,
cultures or country,
yeah,
like a Lebanese wedding is going to be so flamboyant.
absolutely.
I was just at an Indian wedding. There were like thousands of people there. It's just insane, like a whole week. Whether I go for a European wedding, way more intimate, no matter the size. Like it's just
Yeah,
different ways
yeah,
of doing
no,
it.
so true.
And like,
No, it's so true.
too much floral arrangements, tacky for a certain way. But
Yeah,
otherwise, if you're like from a different country, it may seem as, you didn't have the money to spend for it. So I think it's cultural. It's a way of communicating. If you look past the whole, obviously, signaling, it's always communication. It's trying to, just tell the story of who you are, and through tools that can be like a watch or your clothes, or even just the way that you talk behind that. But yeah, there's so many different layers to this conversation, and we can go on forever to talk about this. But I know that we are past our time, and I just wanted to ask you, like, what's your dream for Moto for this year? Like, where would you like it to be, and like hopefully what we can expect from it from this year before I leave you off.
yeah. Well, for us, we've been in our test beta for about 2 months, and we've been fortunate enough where a significant amount of our users are really our dream type of user. They regularly spend, let's say, more than 20,000 per month on different experiences. And to be totally honest, they come from a totally different um, income and lifestyle than I do, right? And we've just been learning a lot about what their needs are, right? And how we can kind of really continue to cater to people that have taste and like to spend, right? And we really become their companion for living a better life through our card. And so because of that, there's kind of like a Moto 2.0. That's a rebrand, so to speak, that is currently happening. We'll go live with it very soon.
Oh,
We'll also be on the App Store soon. We will maintain a wait list, but there will be something like referrals coming soon. So we expect a lot more users to be able to gain access. And yeah, for us, we want to, you know, we're already on track to process, you know, over um, significantly more than $10 million annually from just this very small cohort of users. Like
nice, congrats.
we think.
That's huge.
Thank you. Yeah, but we think that we're very close to, because we have so few members right now. 10xing this amount is very feasible this year. So we definitely want to 10x by the end of the year from where we are, but luckily it's a very small starting group.
Nice. Well, I'm excited. I will let you guys know. Obviously, you'll see what I'll be buying and splurging on. Hopefully, like not too much. But it's definitely summer, so I'm really excited to do that. What is in terms of like where people can find you at events? Are you guys participating in any conferences next? Like, will we be seeing some experiences or small events where people can like participate anytime soon? Do you have
Yeah,
anything planned?
yeah. I would say keep an eye out for Moto Summer. We're definitely going to do some really cool things, and in some locations where, um, there's a very good chance that if you're a audience member right now tuning in, it might be in your city. So the best way to kind of stay up to date with us is by following us on X at use Motocard, which I think is tagged in this stream. And yeah, you can also follow me personally on X as well for updates. And I think my username is also right there on the
Yeah,
screen.
it's
Um,
all on there. You got the tag. It's all
yeah.
there.
So yeah, if you want to be the first to know, that's the best way to get in touch. If you're listening to this live stream and you think that we might be a card that is what you're looking for, because that's what we aim to be. We aim to be that card that you've been looking for, and for a lot of our users we already are, and we're just getting better. Feel free to DM me or follow us on X, and reach out to us, and if you're the right fit, we would love to onboard you.
Okay, so well, I'm gonna have a European summer. I'm leaving at the end of the month, and I'm excited to Euromax. So I'll be keeping an eye. Hopefully, you do stuff in. Hello, I'll be probably like I'm going to proof of stock. So if anyone's in Paris, let me know. Then maybe NFC
I'll be
Lisbon. We'll
there
see.
too, I think. So
Yeah.
that'll be cool. Yeah, so we can
Okay.
see each other there.
Paris is always a good idea.
Yeah,
Okay, so
Paris is a great
Paris,
city.
maybe Lisbon, and then I'll just be like between Belgium and Italy and some weddings in the Mediterranean, and then we'll see. I'm very excited about this summer. It's coming soon, so let's keep in touch. And yeah, everybody that was listening, I am gonna go live on Thursday. We'll have Sissy join me. I'm doing a small like live stream / workshop on how to vibe code your personal website with Sissy. I think it's gonna be really cool. I bought my own domain, so I haven't had time, but I think this is gonna be like motivating me to build up my landing page because you never know. Everybody, by the way, if you haven't yet, and that's one thing that everybody should be doing is buying their own domain name, just because like you got to bet on yourself. You never know where life can take you. One day you might need that. Just go buy your domain. It's probably very cheap on GoDaddy. Do it, and then Thursday we do a little workshop on how to get started and vibe code. So next week, same time, and then again like Mondays and Thursdays, I'll be there live. Cool. So thank you, Shiman, for joining me, and yeah, we'll see you in Paris.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope everyone has a great week.
Bye, everyone.